Now, you don't have to go that far back into the past to see when this state was voting a lot like my home state of Indiana. 2000, 2004, but then you get to 2008, and both our states helped put Barack Obama in the White House. Now, since then, we've struggled a little bit in Indiana. But you, in 2012, helped re-elect Barack Obama. In 2016, you sent Catherine Cortez Masto to the United States Senate. Last year, you put Jackie Robinson in the Senate and Steve Sisolak in the governor's mansion. And that is how the battle cry, the battle born, went from turn Nevada blue to keep Nevada blue. You got a lot to be proud of right here. The Democratic majority in the legislature, but the first legislature in America to be majority women. And I don't think it's a coincidence we're getting some good work done. So this is a state that will never make the mistake of treating the White House like it's the only office that matters. Having said that, the White House is awfully important, especially at a moment like this. And I am running for president because I'm afraid our country is running out of time. I believe our country is in a crisis, with the American people divided and discouraged, just when we need to meet some of the greatest challenges we've ever seen. And yet, we have a president who is confessing on national television to an abuse of power rather than leading the American people where we need to go. We're in trouble. And it's even bigger than this presidency, because the future of the American project is on the line. We've got to change the trajectory of our country, not 4 years from now, not 10 years from now, but right now. And there's a crisis that's been brewing for years around the country, certainly where I live. Growing up in the so-called Rust Belt, not even realizing as a kid that it was unusual to have empty factories and houses all around growing up. I learned how politics affects everyday life, how the decisions they make in those big white buildings reaches into our paychecks and our homes and our families. People in my life have been killed by the opioid crisis. People in my family saved by the Affordable Care Act. My family's finances have been pressed by six-figure student debt and rescued by the existence of Medicaid. I'm standing before you with somebody who had the course of my life altered by the orders that sent me into a foreign war. And I'm somebody whose marriage exists by the grace of a single vote on the United States Supreme Court. All politics is perfect. And that's what politics is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about our day-to-day lives. But lately, it feels like it's about the day-to-day drama among the politicians. Who got the best singer off in a debate, or who looked good on cable. We keep sending people to Washington to fight for us, and they get there, and it feels like they get more interested in the part about fighting than the part about us. That's got to change. We are being divided, especially under this president, around the very values that are supposed to unite us. Think about patriotism and love of country. To me, honoring this flag means never using it as a weapon against somebody else. It means recognizing that dissent is patriotic. And yes, it means recognizing that when somebody blows a whistle on official wrongdoing, that is an act of loyalty to the republic for which it stands. We hear of values like faith, but to me that's best expressed by people like the activists I was with this morning in Reno, talking about affordable housing, talking about supporting people with addiction. In other words, it's about making sure that faith is never used as a weapon against a fellow American, but rather a call to higher values and to lifting up the marginalized for whom we are responsible. Family values could be unified, especially when we think about what it really means to support a family in the 21st century. And among other things, it's the family values I saw on display with the UAW workers with their children at their side, fighting to make sure that you can earn enough to support a family in this country. Those are family values too. And freedom. refrain of our friends on the other side of the aisle from something we got to talk about more in the Democratic Party. Sometimes freedom does mean getting government out of the way. For example, ensuring that government gets out of the business of dictating to women what their reproductive health care choices are. But other times it means making sure Americans have the freedom to be treated equally and the freedom to live a life of their choosing. But as long as those values that are supposed to be uniting us are instead used to wedge us apart, we're going to get more and more divided. That wall on the border is never going to get built, but some very real walls are being put up in our communities, in our families. It makes people dread Thanksgiving. And it's leading to a crisis of belonging in this country, even beyond politics. So profound that I think it's part of why we see a rise in deaths from despair as people self-medicate to navigate that urgency of belonging. But there's good news, Nevada. You have got a thumb on the scale when it comes to the balance of our future. In 5 months, you all get to pick up the remote, take one last look at that reality show or horror show or game show or whatever you want to call that show that this president has going on. You get to pick up the remote and change the channel to something better. You get to be the first in the West to make sure that we not only replace this president with a better one, but do something about the circumstances that made it possible for us to get here. Because somebody like him should not have been able to get within cheating distance of the Oval Office in the first place. The fact that he's there tells us we got work to do. This is a season for ideas that are bold enough to get the job done and capable of unifying us. That's how Democrats win. It always has been. From Barack Obama back to John F. Kennedy. We win when we offer leadership from a new generation, calling America to be better than it's been. When I'm your nominee, they're still going to run the same playbook. They're still going to call us socialists no matter what we're doing, but when I'm your nominee, they'll be saying about somebody who worked with the private sector in order to deliver jobs and support workers in our community. They'll try to tie us to Washington like they always do, but when I'm your nominee, they'll be trying to do that with somebody who works in the heart of the industrial Midwest to make the community better off. And I'm sure you can rely on them to continue to do what they do in talking about national security like it's a partisan issue, maybe throw a military parade or two. But when I'm your nominee, this president will have to defend his idea of being commander-in-chief against an American war veteran who's seen a lot worse incoming than a misspelled tweet. I am more than ready to take on this president. But we got to remember that this election can't just be about him, even with everything that's going on. Because if all we're talking about is him, then we're not talking about you. And what I'm offering you is a presidency that never forgets that our lives need to be at the heart of the decisions that are being made. So I'm inviting you to picture that presidency. To picture a president who gets up in the morning, not thinking about who hurt his feelings on Twitter or on cable, but about how to make your life better. And here's another contribution to public health I'm offering. Picture a presidency where when you turn on the news, your blood pressure goes down a little bit instead of up a little bit. That'd be nice. But also a presidency delivering solutions, like ensuring that we have affordable, universal health care with Medicare for all who want it. That means every American gets a chance to walk away from the private sector toward a public alternative, if and only if they believe that's the right thing to do, because I trust Americans to decide for themselves. And speaking of health, you can also expect a president who insists that we as a country treat mental health just as effectively as we do physical health, and aren't afraid to talk about it. Envision a president who recognizes, especially as we approach the anniversary of October 1, that the Second Amendment should never be twisted into an excuse for inaction when we need background checks, red flag laws, and ways to ensure that weapons, like the weapons that I carried overseas and trained on in the military, are not sold anywhere near an American school or neighborhood. systemic racism with the Douglas Plan, as ambitious as the Marshall Plan that rebuilt Europe, but this time right here at home, because your race should never have any bearing on your health, your wealth, your life expectancy, or your relationship with law enforcement. And you get a president who understands that personnel is policy. That means you can have an attorney general who is an attorney for the American people and not for the president. It means a Secretary of the Interior who actually believes in protecting public land. And a head of environmental protection who actually believes in climate change and is prepared to help rally the American people to do something about it. And how about a Secretary of Education who believes in public education? Supporting teachers, as we should. That's what you can expect from my presidency. Because ultimately the purpose of the presidency is not the glorification of the president. It is the unification of the American people, bringing us together. It's why I propose national service. It's why I propose a different vocabulary to come from the White House. Because the unwritten part of that job, the moral leadership that we didn't fully appreciate, I think, until it was gone, that is about creating a sense of belonging, where so many feel only isolation. We just had one of the best moments of the entire campaign a few days ago. We were in Iowa, and I was reunited with a teenager who came up to me a couple months earlier and let me know that our campaign had changed things for her, let her be who she is. She said that because of your campaign, I can go to school, I don't have to be afraid, I can be who I am and say what I believe. And I thought I knew what she was telling me, because I've been so inspired by people who let me know that me being honest about who I am, sharing why my marriage is such a wonderful thing, has affected them too. But I didn't realize what she was saying, because she went on to say, you've let me know that I can go to school and be myself, and I don't have to be ashamed that I have autism. And I thought, now we're really getting somewhere. Because this is what the presidency is for, and this is what a campaign can do too. We have to build up a sense of belonging in this country where everybody fits, and everybody means everybody. We need the kind of leadership that can bring down those walls between us and build up a new sense of American solidarity. That is what the presidency is for. And if we do that, as dark as this moment has been, in 10 years we can look into the eyes of some of the kids who are coming to my events now, not even old enough to vote. A 13-year-old boy with tears streaming down his face, asking about gun safety. A 12-year-old asking me about health insurance, not because she's a policy buff, but because she's wondering with her diabetes what will happen if her parents lose their coverage. We're going to look them in the eye and we're going to tell them, I'm sorry it ever got there. Because the only good answer to your questions is you shouldn't even have to worry about that. I'm sorry it ever got there, but look at what we did in 2020. Look at what we did to see to it that in your lifetime, climate change is not a barrier to your prosperity. Look at what we did to summon the courage to do something about gun violence before it produced yet another school shooting generation. Look at what we did to see to it that the economy really was a rising tide that lifts all boats. Wouldn't we be proud of what we did in 2020 if we can make that happen? Now's our chance. That's what I believe. And I know the word hope has fallen out of fashion in American politics lately, but I believe running for office is an act of hope. I believe supporting your Democratic Party is an act of hope. I believe helping anybody achieve political change is an act of hope and faith that it is worth doing, and that when we act together we can make this country better than it's ever been. So my question for you is very simple. Are you ready to live and spread the sense of hope required to bring about political change? And while we're at it, are you ready to bring a little common sense to Washington? Are you ready to stand up for candidates for office from the presidency to your own backyard, knowing that that's how we're going to make this country a better place to live? And I'm pretty sure that together we're going to be able to say that Nevada helped change history in 2020. And with that in mind, with your indulgence, I would like to invite the chair back to the stage so that I can officially become the first candidate in this race to file papers for the Nevada caucuses. And with that, thank you, Nevada.
All right, let's give Mayor Pete another round of applause. Our next speaker is the second woman to represent Nevada in the United States Senate. She was the first freshman congresswoman to unseat an incumbent in the Senate, and she's the only computer programmer in the Senate. Please help me welcome to the stage our Senator